Right, Bim. Guess what? Third time lucky. Although it only says part 1. I've deleted part 1 and part 1 because they were only a few minutes long. If this doesn't work, I'm scrapping it for tonight. We'll do it again next week. But what I'll do is I'll do pre-record and put that up later. So yeah, it completely thrown me. My internet is absolute rubbish. Don't get Virgin Media internet unless you want to have disasters like this all the time. So is it still working? No, it's saying there's not enough data coming through. Anyway, we'll keep going anyway. This weekend sees next weekend. No, this week. I don't know when it is actually. But it's the 17th anniversary of the Queen of England becoming, Queen. It's the Jubilee, and there's lots of exciting things going on, including rare photographs that have never been seen before, and other exciting, if you're into that kind of thing, videos, home shot, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, very rare photographs of Queen, which have been surfacing. So it's good to see that people are interested in that kind of thing, and I always think it's good when people are. The Queen's got mobility issues at the minute. She went to the Chelsea Flower Show and she basically emulated her mother. She sat in the back of what is basically a golf cart. It's a bit posher than a golf cart, but we'll call it for a golf cart because that's what it reminded me of. Yeah, it did remind me a lot though of her mother, but her mother used to drive the things around. Okay, they weren't quite as stylish, they were a bit chunkier, but yeah, it was hilarious to watch her whiz around the Chelsea Flower Show, looking at all the pretty flowers and everything. She enjoys doing it. My mum likes flowers as well. Hopefully she'll be going out on Monday in her wheelchair. I think. Anyway, I'll let you know later on. So yeah, that's some good news that's been going on. Other good news if you're Australian is you've got a change of government. We've now got a Labour government in charge of Australia. I honestly don't know what that means, but I know it's a big thing in Australia. And it was a big victory as well for the Australians. Talking of big victories, but not for Australians. Rangers. They won the Scottish Cup after penalties, it was. Yeah, that's about as much as I know. It's football. I mean, come on. And we all thought that Liverpool were going to be celebrating again, winning the Premier League. And to be fair, some of Saturday they were winning the Premier League. But then Man United managed to score 3 goals in 5 minutes. And they beat Liverpool by 1 point. So Liverpool cannot do the quadruple now. They can only do the treble. But even that's fairly impressive. They're playing this weekend in the European Cup. Hi JT, hope you're good. That's about as much I know about football, but I think that's quite knowledgeable. Other than that they had a parade and they went round showing their cup off, and thankfully I don't think anyone dropped it. What normally happens is on these open top buses, someone's had too much of the old champagne, and they end up dropping the cup and it gets run over by the bus. It happens a lot. Google it. I say it happens a lot. I think I've known it to happen once, but that's a lot if you think about it in the scheme of things. Other stuff going on this week that was a bit strange and not something I'm overly bothered about is the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, hi Rachel, stuff that's going on. Still in court. And Kate Moss was a witness. Now, I didn't know that Kate Moss went out with Johnny Depp when he was handsome. Oh. But apparently she did. Who knew? Who cares? And it was been reported by people that he pushed her downstairs. So she came on live into the courtroom whilst being in Kent and said he never pushed me down anywhere, he never kicked me or anything like that. But she never said he never hit her. She never said that. I'm not saying he did, but she never said that. She never ever said that. Anyway, that's the goodish news. But the rest of the week has been pretty dire, really. Dire area. It's been announced that the BBC are cutting CBeebies and BBC 4. Now bear in mind they've only just brought BBC 3 back because they cut BBC 3 years ago in cutback, so now they've just brought it back. and it says BBC Three is now on TV. And it's like, no, BBC Three is back on TV. It was on before. You took it off. Now you put it on again. Anyway, BBC Four is going now, as is CBeebies. Now, whether that means they get rid of Pointless, because I always think it's pointless anyway, and puts kids' programmes on then, or whether they've got more than one children's channel, I don't know. But one thing I do know is when I had Sky, if you watch CBeebies, CBBC, it would turn into BBC Four at 7 o'clock. So getting rid of both of them channels makes sense because they're on the same frequency, although they're not, but they are. I know what I mean. Sounds good in my head. Awful news coming from Ukraine is that the Russians do seem to be making a bit of headway now in Mariupol and the Donbass district. And this young man here, 21 years old, has been found guilty and got a life sentence for a war crime of shooting an innocent, unarmed civilian 4 times in the head. And to be fair, looks very repentant, but definitely got what he deserved. If it had been the other way around, I can't imagine he got a life sentence. I would have, well, he might have done, but his life would have been like over by now. Hashtag just saying. So yeah, it's bad news. And then it just kept coming, didn't it, this week? The awful, shocking tragedy of Robe Elementary School in Texas. I mean, it defies any logic from anywhere as to how this is allowed to happen over and over and over again. Columbine, Sandy Hook, all the ones in between. There was a big shooting last week in, I think it was a supermarket. There was one in a church. I follow a lot of tweets from news agencies from America, so like Reuters and that kind of thing. And, to be fair, Australia. And they're practically reporting a mass shooting every day. Now, you know, some might say, well, if the Americans are daft enough to let people have guns, then they deserve what they get. I agree to a part, but let's be honest, these are children. These are 7 to 10-year-olds who've been killed with their teachers. And worse than that, the police delayed going into the classroom because they didn't think it was that serious. And, it seems, he didn't shoot them all randomly. He didn't walk around shooting them in the corridors or whatever, like Terminator. He shot them one by one in a room. So you watch your friends get shot, and you know you're going to get shot next. And you're 7 to 10 years old? How is this even remotely acceptable anywhere on the planet? If this was happening in Afghanistan, or if this was happening somewhere like that, Biden would be up there saying, we're going to send people in, we're going to sort this out, we're going to get rid of this, we're going to change things. It is peculiar. To be fair, there are, but most of them are white. It is peculiar that in America, the gun lobby, whom, incidentally, have got a super fan who's actually talking to them later on today, a very sensible gentleman, elderly, white, rich, mad. The NRA, National Rifle Association, have got a speech by Donald Trump, and I dread to think what he's going to come up with. They were interviewing people outside this NRA convention that they're having, which is like 4 hours away. It's in the same county, not county. What do they call them? It's in Texas anyway, and it's a 4-hour drive away from this mass murder that's occurred. And they're all out there saying it's not the gun's fault, it's the criminal's fault. Well, hang on a minute. In the UK, I'm old enough to remember Dunblane. I'm old enough to remember Hungerford. Now, Hungerford, you may not be familiar with if you're, you know, like under the age of 50. But Hungerford, the problem there was the guy who walked around Hungerford had a semi-automatic rifle, and he was just going around and he was just shooting people randomly, all ages, set fire to places. He eventually got shot or something happened to him. He definitely died anyway. And they banned pretty much immediately people from having automatic weapons. Then a few years later, we had Dunblane, which was a primary infant school where a gunman went in and killed numerous children and teachers. Again, similar kind of age as what we're talking about here in Texas. And we banned guns that he used immediately. And then we made it more difficult for people to get guns. We've never had a shooting since. Okay, we've got a problem with knife crime, but let's be honest, if you've got a knife, you're going to do a lot less damage than someone with a semi-automatic rifle and unlimited ammunition. Why Americans are allowed to have weapons is because of the Second Amendment, which is their Bible, and they love it. They think it's the best thing ever, because that means they can have a weapon. When that was done 200 plus years ago, there was no semi-automatic weapons. There was no armor-piercing weapons. There was no... You had a gun that you had to manually load. You might have 6 to 8 shots from it, or 2 if it's a shotgun, and that was your lot. And that was for defence, or obviously it was the Wild West at the time. So that was all going on. But we've moved on from there. But Americans haven't. There was a senator who stood up on the day of this massacre, and he said, "What are we doing here? Why are you here?" to all the other senators who vote en masse against any restrictions for gun crime. He says, "Why are you here? Why do you go through the hassle of becoming a senator? All the stuff you have to do to become a senator." I've had a bit of experience of that when I've tried to become a councillor earlier on this year. And it's a lot of work. You can imagine being a senator, much more work, much more aggressive, all that kind of stuff. But he says, "Why are you here? Why are you letting people die? Why are we doing this?" And it almost brought a tear to my eye. It's just unbelievable. And like I say, you think, if Americans are daft enough and the government's daft enough to let Americans have guns without any checkups or whatever, then on their head be it. The problem is we're getting under 10-year-olds being killed and knowing they're going to be killed. This is wrong on so many levels. Why they can't see it? When was the last time you had a gun crime? Oh yeah, Whitehaven, Derek Bird. Was that the one where Gaza turned up? Or was that someone else? But we don't have daily gun crimes in the UK. We don't have mass murders in the UK. We don't have mass murders anywhere. You might get the odd one somewhere in the world other than America. But if you hear there's been a mass shooting anywhere, you automatically think, and are correct, it's in America. Even Canada, which is next door to America, don't have them. Yet the Americans just can't see it. Don't think that was Gaza. Which was one with Gaza then? There was one with Gaza turned up with a takeaway for a guy who was hiding in some bushes or something. That was bizarre. Anyway, that was what year that was, and that was from years ago. What else is going on? Well, China. Oh, China. China is now putting their soldiers fairly near to the border where Taiwan is. They've also, as well, and this wasn't heavily reported, though it was reported, which is how I found out about it, they've run some exercises with the Russian army. So China and the Russian army this week have had exercises. As I say army, it was the air forces. And they flew over the China Sea, whatever it's called, towards Japan, which is not that far. If we go back to the map, where's the map gone? There it is. So they flew from China, Russian and Chinese aeroplanes, and they flew from China, and that is Japan. That's Japan, and that blue dot down there, that is Taiwan. So needless to say, China are still friends with Russia. If China is still friends with Russia and Russia is doing what it's doing, how do we know that China are not giving Russian weapons? If they are, then that is we're giving weapons, yeah, but that's a defence of a country. They're giving weapons to attack a country. They are at war with that country, in my opinion. We should not have any dealings with China. Yeah, it's going to screw up the car market because we won't get chips from China, but we shouldn't be relying on China for stuff like that. They're a communist country. How do we... Yeah, well, it was Ralph, you're right. Ralph Moore, that was it. So why are we letting this happen? You've got to bear in mind as well that the Uyghurs are being taken away en masse because the Chinese government don't like them, and being put into, at best, camps, certainly disappearing, and being re-educated into the ways of mainstream China. But have they ever come back into mainstream China? No. What's happened to all the kids? What's happened to the old people? That picture there, they're all men. And they don't look like they're at a school. They look like they're in prison. And they're in prison because of their who they were born as. But there we go. US officials said the bombers flew over the Sea of Japan early on Tuesday and continued south towards East China and the Philippine Sea. It was the first joint military patrol held by China and Russia since Moscow invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February. So, what is going on and why are we supporting China? Don't forget, if you live in Wigan, the money coming from China is paying for the redevelopment of Wigan. President Biden, I mean, oh my God, we thought Trump was bad. Biden, unbelievable, has said that he will go to war with China to protect Taiwan. He will actively protect Taiwan. They're not in NATO or anything, so what the difference between that and Ukraine is, I've no idea. But they will help with men on the ground and women and weapons and money and everything to defend Taiwan should China invade. Now, the thing I think is China's army is more ruthless and probably better armed than the Russian army. And let's be honest, Taiwan is not a big country. Taiwan, you could probably fit England in Taiwan or the UK in Taiwan, but it's not much bigger than that, whereas Ukraine is huge. It is massive. So if China decides to take Taiwan, it's going to be over before we even know it's happened. But we should be doing sanctions against China already, in my humble opinion. What else has been going on this week? They've all gone quiet, which is a bit scary. It's a bit scary when you go quiet. I don't like it when you go quiet because it's scary. Anyway, we've had some slightly good news. If you're a fan of ABBA from Sweden, they've dressed up in robot costumes so that they can perform pretty much all over the world without leaving their house. Basically, holograms. And they're going to look like they did in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, which is amazing and somewhat disturbing at the same time. It's meant to be superb, and I know the Gorillaz did something similar a while ago, because obviously the Gorillaz are a animated band led by Damon Albarn, and I think Michael Jackson, after he passed away, they did one with him as well, which is kind of a toury type thing, but this is full bore, big thing, and they're earning millions from it, and they're not even leaving their house. They spent a couple of weeks dressed in silly costumes, singing and dancing. You do it a few times, get it filmed, get the computers involved, bish bash bosh, more millions. Talking of millions, if you joined us earlier, we're going back on ourselves a bit here, but don't worry. Rishi Sunak, he's decided finally that he needs to do something to help the poorer people who are desperately struggling with heating and eating. Cost of everything, as we've already said, has gone up all over the world, not just in the UK. There's riots in Sri Lanka. Like I said, the Australian government's changed because of it. It's a worldwide issue. I nearly said Talamati then. What's they call the people who think you're working? I use my gammy eye. Those people are running the world, and they now decided to cash it in, by the looks of things. Anyway, Rishi Sunak has done a not a windfall tax, because that's what the Labour government wanted. He's done a levy on the extra profits that the big energy companies have earned, but it's not a windfall tax, it's a levy. Completely different, obviously, because you don't want to seem to be like a Labour kind of person, do you? I mean, I wouldn't, to be honest with you. So he's got £15 billion. Now, I think 5 billion of that, or whatever, is from the the taking of the money off of the big companies. Every household in Britain, regardless of income, is going to get £400 to help with the energy bills. Now that's either going to come through your energy company and they're just going to put it onto your account, or if like me you pay with a key card, they're going to top up your key card with that amount, or they're going to do it over a period of time. They're not going to do it in one lump, or they are going to send me or us some kind of voucher that we can use somewhere to get the money onto our system. So yeah, it's a good idea. But then, if you're in the poorest households, you get an extra £650, which completely agree with. So that's £1,050 for the poorest households. So single parents, people on the dole. I know it's not called that now. What everyone. Hi, Dotty lady. And Kim as well. Didn't see you sleeping there. But yeah, it's a good thing. It's might be a bit late, mind you. We don't get it straight away. We're only getting it in October, I think. And then you've got £300 extra for pensioners. So pensioners could be getting £1,350, which again, not a problem with. And if you're disabled on disability benefits, and they are not, I don't get this, if they're not means tested, you get an extra £150, which would take you up to £1,500. So if you get all of them, you get £1,500 to pay your bills this year, and you don't have to pay it back. The one they come up with before was they were going to give us £200, but we'd have to pay it back. Well, we're not going to have to pay this back because we're taking it off the big companies. But my question is still, why don't the big companies just drop their prices? Because if we are paying X amount for fuel, I mean, I don't use a lot of gas at the moment. The heating's off, don't need it on. I've got a gas oven, but I only put it on maybe 4 or 5 times a day for maybe half an hour, and that's it. I don't have a bath. I have a shower that's electric, so I don't use a lot of gas. But I'm still being charged considerably more per day for my gas supply than what I was before this happened. But that's not changed. The actual supply getting here hasn't changed. What's changed is the amount of money that the gas companies have to pay off the worldwide markets to give us the gas. So the price of the gas individually, so a square metre of gas, has gone up in value. So yeah, by all means, charge us extra for that. But why are you charging us extra for the day rate as well? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's basically people like me who are not using gas all the time. I'm getting charged the same day rate as someone who could be living 3 doors from me, who's got their central heating on full blast, having a bath every 3 hours, baking bread all day, and they're paying the same day rate as I am. Okay, they're paying more for the gas they're using, but they're using more gas. They should be paying more for it. Isn't that the whole point of all this? So I kind of agree with Rishi doing this, and I kind of disagree at the same time. Of course, if you're cynical, and I don't think DC was being cynical earlier, yeah, money. I don't think Rishi's going to get screwed, to be honest. I think he's all right. Your little man gets screwed. See what I did there? Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah, it's purely a coincidence that where's my pictures gone for? What I'm looking for? Oh, there it is. There it is. Couldn't see it for looking. Purely coincidental that all this sees the light of day the day after the Grey Report comes out on the parties at Downing Street. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've not read the Grey Report, but I have seen news channels talk about it. And Sky News, oh my God, that was like watching propaganda for the Labour Party. I'm like, hang on a minute. Keir Starmer is under investigation for his curry night at when was that? It was up north somewhere in Geordieland, Durham. It was in Durham, And he's in trouble, or could be in trouble for that. But he was travelling all over the country doing, stuff that you do when you're the leader of a party. So he's been caught once. I'm sure he's had more than one meal while he's been on these rounds. It's just not all in the same place. So I think it's hyper hypocritical of him to go on about Boris and their cronies, who again are hypocritical, having parties in the same place all the time. I'm not saying I agree with it, but they're as bad as each other in my opinion. But anyway, the report came out and it wasn't as bad as I expected. I don't think it's as bad as anyone expected. And Sue Gray is not a big fan apparently of Boris or anyone else really. She's there to do a job, and she did the job. And yeah, I mean, even we've seen the pictures of Keir Starmer having his beers. Well, we got a lovely picture of Boris in the cabinet room having a can of Coke with people and sandwiches and things like that. But again, I'm not defending them, but to me that doesn't look like a party. That looks like an event where you're working and someone's coming with food, because when you have a party you don't have sandwiches from Tesco. But either way, the whole thing's hopefully now is sorted. We can move on, because I want to move on. Like I've already said, we've got Ukraine, we've got China, we've got bumbling Biden. We've got a lot of stuff going on that we need to sort out. And I appreciate a lot of people are upset by the actions of Boris and co, but I'm sure there was many people who did exactly the same thing. My neighbour, for example, I said it on my vlogs, when the COVID vlogs, they're having garden parties every Friday, Saturday night through the entire lockdown, and the lady is a carer. She goes out caring for the elderly. Then when it was raining, they'd have them inside, so you'd hear them through the wall having a party every weekend. So, I'm not saying they're the only people, but a lot of people broke the rules. I didn't, and I'm still not now. I'm still very, very careful. I don't wear a mask as much as I used to now when I'm in supermarkets, things like that. But if I go into a confined space, or if I got on a bus or a train or something, I would definitely wear a mask. But I wouldn't wear one necessarily. I don't when I go to Tesco or if I go to Asda or something like that. So yeah, we've kind of moved on from all that. Monkeypox is getting more concerning, but apparently you can only catch it if you're in very close contact with someone with monkeypox, which hopefully you'd notice and not go in close contact with them. But apparently now it turns out that your pets can have it as well, mainly gerbils and rabbits and guinea pigs. And the advice is put them outside for 10 days. Now, I know it's summertime, I use the term loosely, but I don't want to put my gerbils outside. I haven't got any, but I don't want to put gerbils outside for 10 days in this weather, because it would kill them. You might as well just hit them with a hammer and have done with it. It just seems a bit bonkers. We've already mentioned BBC 4 and CBBC's being answered, haven't we? So we've had two sad losses this week. We've had John Lennon's old drummer and the drummer of Yes, Alan White, who's passed away at the age of 72. And it was the same with pets with COVID as well, if you remember. More shockingly, for me anyway, it was Andrew Fletcher of Depeche Moore. Now, Depeche Moore is one of my favourite bands of the 80s, and I saw them alive in early 90s because I was working in Manchester, and they were gigging at the arena hadn't been built then, so they'd be gigging at the O2 or whatever it was called at the time. Yeah, I spoke to him today. He's all right. Don't panic. He's fine. He was only 60 years old, which is like not much older than me, which is very worrying. Kind of grew up with him indirectly, but I saw him and the other band members, all four of them, and not at the gig. I come out. I was on my dinner break. I come out of the Arndale Centre where I was working, come through the doors, walking across Market Street, which was pedestrianised at the time, one of the first streets I knew to be pedestrianised, and they are walking across the pedestrianised way pretty much directly towards me, all in their leather gear with the studs and the leather hat and all that kind of stuff. 4 of them just walking towards me. And I kind of walked out and I was like, that's Depeche Moore. Like you do. At which point I completely went, yeah! Because I was like so excited. Best thing they ever did for me is Blasphemous Rumours. But I also like Master and Servant, People Are People. It's a lot, it's a lot, it's a lot, it's a lot. They also spawned as well, eventually, Alison Moyet through Vince Clarke, who left early on after the first album, and Yazoo and The Assembly and all that. And it's all because of Andrew Fletcher, who started Depeche Mode in... it wasn't Dagenham, was it? Hiya, Tommy. It was somewhere like that, though. It was somewhere on the outskirts of London that you wouldn't think anyone cool would come from. And they started off as this real clean-cut band, you know. They like the sharp suits, the haircut, not a blemish, not a hair. To be fair, I don't think they could grow facial hair at the time, none of them. And, you know, they're all, you know, just can't get enough, I just can't get enough, and all that kind of goings. All I want to do is see you. And, yeah, I bought it all. I loved it. And then they went dark. So the one that play on the radio most is the Personal Jesus or Enjoy the Silence, which again are fantastic tracks. A bit like Duran Duran. You know, I liked Duran Duran at the time as well. But, you know, my favourite track by Duran Duran was actually played on Radio X today on the Golden Hour. Not the Golden Hour, the Platinum Hour, by Chris Moyles. And that was Not Come Undone. Oh... I will cry for yesterday. Ordinary World, which was one of the later tracks. And same with Depeche Mode for me. The later stuff ended up being better than the earlier stuff. But either way, it's... Basildon, that's the one. Somewhere you would never think. Thank you, Kim. I mean, you know, Basildon. And they ended up being, you know, tattooed. And the lead singer, Dave Gahan, I mean, he should be dead, let's be honest. The amount of drugs that's gone through his body... 1980, year before I left school. Oh, I didn't say that out loud, did I? You can look at my age now. I'm old. Yeah, I know I'm old. But yeah, very, very sad. And untimely passing. I mean, 60 is no age these days. To be fair, 72 for the Yes drummer is not really an age. The only reason why I noticed the Yes one, because there's been an actor passed away and a couple of other people passed away as well. But the Yes one is because my favourite producer of all time, I didn't know he was going to be my favourite producer, but was also the person on the first record I ever bought from Woolworths in 1979, and that was the Buggles' Video Kill the Radio Star with Trevor Horn. And Trevor Horn ended up doing ZTT, producing shed loads of stuff, including Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Propaganda, who I actually prefer to Frankie Goes to Hollywood, but a lot of people never heard of Propaganda. But again, the second album was amazing, completely different with a different singer. The album was called 1, 2, 3, 4, but fantastic album. But the first album, which was, I think it was called P Machine or whatever. But yeah, if you get a chance, you're into your German rock pop synth stuff, have a look at Propaganda. You've got something different. Amazing, amazing band. But he also did a lot of big bands at the time, like the Pet Shop Boys. He did ABC, the Lexicon of Love album, which is a fantastic album. He did, I'm sure he worked with Spandau Ballet as well, but he did so much stuff that was really, really good. And then he joined Yes, that's where I'm getting to, and that's when he ended up working with Alan White, the drummer of Yes. So that's why I know of Alan White, because he's a drummer in Yes, and my icon of the 80s, which is Trevor Horn, ended up working with Yes. And he's still going strong today, Trevor Horn, which is good. He occasionally pops up on those pop things where they look back at different years of pop and stuff. So, I think that is it. Let's just check I've gone through everything. Just check I've had all my pictures done, because I haven't printed them off. Oh yeah, did I mention the Queen? Well, there's more of you here now, so we'll mention the Queen. It's the Queen's anniversary of being crowned. She was already Queen at this point. but it's the Jubilee anniversary of her being crowned. I remember in 1975, it was still the Jubilee. How does that work? 1975, and we're in 2022. Must have been 1977. Anyway, yeah, it'd be 25 years, still the Jubilee. And we did a thing at school about it, and was it 72? Could have been 72. I don't know. We did a thing at school about it, and the fun fact was that the only thing that I really liked about the whole thing was the stamps that come out, which instead of being the little square stamps that you normally got, they were like 3 times the width stamps for the Silver Jubilee, and I collected them all. Thankfully, we get lots of letters, and I just steam them off the letters that my mum got, which are usually bills and things like that. Because I was a philatelist at the time, but I was under 10, well under 10. But yeah, and there's a picture of the Queen when she was young, and there's lots of different versions of the Queen photographs that we've never seen before. So that is Queen with... well, it's a different Queen, isn't it? Oh, sorry, my apologies. And then obviously we saw her this week in a golf buggy at the Chelsea Flower Show. It's not doing bad for 96, it's got to be said. Shop will be updated on Sunday, mates, but nothing of note. Spoiler. Hopefully my eye will have gone down on there as well. But anyway, let's not worry about that. So we've had various successes in football. So up the Rangers. Up the Liverpool tonight. But they lost out to Man City for the Premier League. And there is one thing I've forgotten, and that is the Queen's eldest, Prince Charles, has got a leading role in EastEnders. Who knew? He's going to be in EastEnders with his wife Camilla. nay, how you say, but no, it's true. And he's going to be himself. Well, we can't imagine him being anyone else, really. So, yeah, he's going to be in, I assume, this next week or so, but I don't watch EastEnders, so I wouldn't really know. But I have been watching, this is kind of linked, but not linked, because I've been at home a lot recently, because my gammy eye and I just feel a bit crap at the minute. I've been watching a lot of Old Emmerdale, and Marty Pello of Wet 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 was on, because one of the, Kathy I think it was leaving to move to Australia, and another one, Trisha, won in a radio competition, and Marty Pello turned up and sang at the Woolpack, and it was all very weird. But he played as himself as well. And we were talking about the Pet Shop Boys earlier. Neil, the one who stands behind the keyboard looking serious, he was in an episode of Neighbours. Then you've got Ed Sheeran, who was in Game of Thrones. So yeah, pop stars and celebrities do pop up in weird places. And the Queen, to be fair, and Boris have both been in the Rover's Return. I think not Rover's Return, the Queen Vic, but I think Boris was actually in the show, whereas he was only the Mayor of London then. But the Queen was just visiting. And they've just opened up the new set as well. The only soap I like is in my bathroom. Yeah. I wish everyone thought the same. What else is going on? So this is like the review now of what we've been talking about. Oh no, we've missed something else out as well, and this is very important. We can't bring back Vera Duckworth. Sadly, the actress has died. Plus, Vera Duckworth died in it. She's still in it in classic Coronation Street. The old Emmerdales and Kerrys are better than today's rubbish. It's all about shock horror nowadays. It is. I must admit, it's very genteel back in the day. There was a bit of a spat when Rita's new male friend's wife's brother. Wife's seriously ill in hospital, dying. I think he's called Sullivan, because she's called Rita Sullivan, hasn't she? I think she marries him and then he dies as well. Yeah, the brother of his wife comes to the thing and they're having a candlelit dinner and all that, and he's like very angry with them, and then walks out, and then they just kind of look sternly at each other and everything. It's just like very sedate. Whereas nowadays, that would have took 5 weeks to build up, and then it would run for 6 weeks, and then someone would die. But anyway, yeah. No, look at my plums. Okay, they're not plums, they're tomatoes. Now, there was a big thing years ago about genetically modified fruit and veg, and there were protests all over the place, and people stomping through fields and smashing up crops and everything, saying we can't have genetically modified stuff because it will destroy the planet and everything. And to be fair, we didn't know at the time whether they would be or wouldn't be, so it was a 50-50. Corrie and Emmerdale are worse than Midsomer Murders for murders. That is true. It's a much smaller area, and yeah, and EastEnders as well. Chuck that in. Anyway, they've now come up with a new thing which is called gene editing. So it's not genetic modification; it's gene editing. Now, genetic modification is when you add an element of a gene from another thing into what you want to change and then make it into something else, and that's where people were kicking up a fuss. You know, you could do something that would take over the world and we can't eat it and kill us all. It was all a bit amateur dramatics and all that. And they said, well, no, we've got these fields, we're doing them in fields, but they were fields in the open air. So I mean, yeah, I could see both sides of the argument. But gene editing is now where they just take something out. Now in tomatoes, they've taken something out of a tomato gene, edited it, and what it does is, it makes the tomato have vitamin D in it. I'm like, what? So tomatoes don't have vitamin D. We all know that tomatoes have vitamin C. And vitamin D is quite important. It's good for your mental health, it's good for your bones and everything. And you mainly get it from the sun. So if you spend all day and night indoors, or you work weird shifts like I did a few years ago and I worked nights at Asda, you're going to have a deficiency of vitamin D. So that's why when I go places that are really hot or whatever, it's always top off. I know it's not very sexy, but I'm getting vitamin D, and I'm getting my year's supply of vitamin D in that one day when it's sunny, because that's the most natural way of getting it. But you can have tablets, and you can eat foods that give you vitamin D as well. But apparently these tomatoes, with the gene thing taken out, now are rich in vitamin D as well as vitamin C. So you're like, wow, they're suddenly superfood. And I kind of like tomatoes, but at the same time, I don't like tomatoes. So I don't. You can't buy them in the shops, but you may be able to do soon. It's all up in the negotiations at the minute. But anyway, it's been revealed that that's what they're doing with our fruit. Because remember, tomato, even though we eat it with a salad, is technically a fruit. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar. Not a liar, but not a nice man, is this young guy here who looks about 15, but he's 21, he's Russian, and he's just been sentenced to life imprisonment for war crimes in Ukraine, particularly where he shot a defenceless, elderly, unarmed civilian in the head 4 times. And he admitted to it and everything. He said he was acting under orders and all that, but he's got a life sentence. Rightly so, but it shouldn't be him in the box, it should be Putin, let's be honest. Sadly, biggest tragedy of the week by far is another mass shooting in America. 19 school children aged between 7 and 10 and 2 of their teachers executed in their classroom, one at a time. It's horrific. And Americans just seem oblivious that they're the only country that have this problem. And Donald Trump very soon is going to talk to a room full of people with guns at the NRA, National Rifle Association, annual meeting that they're having. Now, I agree that they organised this meeting weeks ago, and the shooting was only earlier on this week, but it's literally within 5 rifle ranges of where the shooting was, about a 4-hour drive. It's the ex-president of the United States is going to promote guns as a defence after this has happened, and it just beggars belief. And like I said earlier, I know it's getting a bit serious now, and it's normally light-hearted this. If Americans want to have guns and shoot each other, that's fine. It's their own fault. The problem is, these are children under the age of 10 who are being assassinated by madmen. And as someone pointed out before, they're nearly all white as well. It's the horror of it is beyond anything. It's absolutely awful, and I have no idea why they get away with it. But anyway, it's my rant over. We'll get back to the lighter stuff, shall we? Well, not much lighter, but we'll go for Johnny Depp being backed up by his ex, Kate Moss, as to not being a bully, not kicking him, not pushing her downstairs. Rishi Sunak, who's announced lots and lots of money, £15 billion worth of help. And another story I missed, and you'll have missed as well. But this gentleman here lives in London. I get fed up with watching North West Tonight going about the same old crap. So I've started watching London local news. It's much more entertaining. And there's this gentleman here who's on a bus. I think he's on a bus there. With a cat. Now, he's got ADHD and he's autistic. And he has this cat, and I'm on Amber Heard's side of the room, to be honest. That's fair enough. I think they should be sorting out amongst themselves. I don't think there's any need for the whole world to find out about it. I genuinely don't care. All I want is them to sort it out, move on, you know. But anyway, this gentleman here, you know, you have guide dogs and those dogs that go around to old people's homes and the people stroke them and all that, and it calms them down and everything. Well, this guy has got this cat, and it does basically the same thing for him. And they interviewed him, and he says, yeah, it wakes me up in the morning, it tells me when it's bedtime, lets me know if I'm going to be ill before I'm ill, and I take it everywhere with me. And he was walking around Sainsbury's with the cat, and they chucked him out, basically, of Sainsbury's. They said the cat is a hygiene risk, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, you let a dog in, and a dog walks around on the floor. I'm carrying my cat on my shoulder. It's not touching the food. It's not going to wee anywhere. It's not going to do anything. And they said, no, you can't have your cat in here. You've got to get out. So they basically chucked him out. So he's taken him to court over it. And I agree that if you allow a dog in and you've got a cat that's well behaved, what's the difference? If anything, cats, well, no, they do poo and wee different places. But they're not going to do it inside. Yeah, it's like I say, I'm watching London news. I live in Wigan, so we get North West Tonight up here, but I was watching London news and it was on. And I'm like, oh, I've got to mention this because it's just brilliant. I love stuff like that that's a bit random. Why not, eh? So, we've got China, who are now looking like Taiwan is within their sights. Taiwan is that little blue speck. Above the word not China is Japan. So Japan's on guard as well. But not to worry, because everyone's favourite president of the moment of America, which of course is bumbling Biden, has said, we will protect Ukraine, and that means military as well as the way we're protecting Ukraine. I use the term loosely. Meanwhile, the Russian and Chinese air forces have done exercises together in the sea between China and Japan, as well as, obviously, the disappearing Uyghurs and whatever happened to that tennis player, the female tennis player. Yeah, but we're still dealing with China financially in Wigan. Makes no sense. Also made no sense was the Sue Gray report, which was all a bit of an anticlimax, really. I was expecting a lot more than we actually got. To be fair, we knew most of the stuff before it actually happened, including Boris having a sandwich and a can of Coke in the cabinet room with trays of sandwiches and Coke, which doesn't look like a party to me, but hell, maybe I just go to the wrong parties. CBBC and BBC4 are being axed. That is Hacker the Dog. Hacker the Dog lives in Wigan. He's very proud of it as well. He's always saying up the ticks and all that kind of stuff. So I believe. I don't watch CBBS, or whatever it's called. And I won't be watching either, but I did quite like ABBA a little bit, I suppose. At the time, I bought a few of their singles. But it's one of them I bought because I didn't think my mum and dad would like me listening to The Jam and other stuff like that all the time. So I bought a bit of ABBA. So I could have something playing that was a bit more light-hearted than, effing and jeffing of Paul Weller. Anyway, they've done the suits, and they are now able to tour virtually anywhere in these fantastic holograms. Now, I don't watch esports because I find watching people play games really boring. People watch me play games, and that's fine. But I don't like watching people play games because they always do what I wouldn't do, and that really annoys me. But esports is massive, particularly in America. And they have these tournaments where there's like $1 million up for grabs. So like, you know, 750,000 to the winning team, 250,000 to the losing team, and you know, maybe a car to the individual who scores the most money. And it's a massive event like Super Bowl kind of thing. And at the opening of them, they have these opening ceremonies where, because it's computer generated stuff they're doing, they've got holograms dancing around on stage with humans and stuff, and it's amazing. And the people in the audience can see it as well. It's not like, oh, it's CGI, a bit like the Chinese Olympics were, particularly the Winter Olympics, the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony. The people in the arena saw very little, but the people watching around the world on the TV saw all these spectacular effects going on. Well, no, but the esports, you see everything. Basically, they've got very thin screens that are see-through that come down, various different angles and various different things. So when they project onto them, they make it look completely 3D and like they're interacting with the people on stage. And it's well worth watching. Esports opening ceremony is probably what you need to Google, I don't know. But basically, that's what this is. This is ABBA in concert virtually. I say virtually, it's pre-recorded, they've already recorded it. So they're sat at home, having a cup of tea, whatever, and they could be anywhere in the world performing to tens of thousands of people. And fair play to them. You know, use technology. I remember when ABBA come along, it was the 1970s. There was nothing. There was no internet. There was no CDs. There was no videos. There was nothing. And they've just embraced the latest technology. Yeah, fair play. And like we said before, we've had some sad passings. This guy's name I always forget. Alan White, the drummer from Yes, has passed away this week. And Andrew Fletcher of Depeche Moore as well, only at the age of 60, has passed away. So some sad passings there. In Australia, the Labour Party won an election, and they've now got the Premier of Australia is a Labour guy. And yeah, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. So, it's time to say thank you very much for watching. So a huge shout out to a dotty lady. Am I still going? Because you've all gone quiet. Yeah, I'm still going. A huge shout out to a dotty lady. Oh, I pressed the wrong thing. There we go. Tommy Razzle, Kim Brands, Angela O'Kane, JT. No, they don't do that, JT. They don't walk into... we know about it if they did. Kim Brand I've already done. Oh, that's it. Yeah. There were some other people earlier on as well, like DC and all that kind of stuff. Yep, so thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are. We've had 2 likes. That's good. I don't do this for likes, though. I do it for history, because we're going to... what I'm going to do at the end of the year is I'm going to do a what a year that was. So I'm keeping all my notes from every week I've done so far, my little notebook, and then I'm going to do a what year that was at the end of the year. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again next time. Yeah, and we'll be back in a week's time to see what a week that was. Until then, bye. Hopefully my gammy eye will have gone as well. Well, not gone, healed.